Okay, there we go. All right. Give me one more second. Let me finish this here.
You're alive right now too.
Yeah, it should it okay, we should be private.
Okay, you are in private. It does look like private chat, but it still says you're live.
Yeah, because I'm on like it's gonna show as private on YouTube. This is between just me and you. So
Okay.
nobody else will be able to be in here. It's just me and you. Because by now I would actually have somebody else in here. Um and nobody will be able to type in chat or anything. So we're all good. I promise you. It's just me and you, nobody else. Nobody can see this, nobody can hear this but me and you and whoever I send the link to.
Okay, now are you gonna record this then?
It's recording now.
Okay.
That's why it means it's live. It's recording.
All right, so you'll send me the link when we're done here.
Yeah, I'll send you the link when we're done.
Okay.
So the link I just sent you is actually all you need. But I'll send you the YouTube link as well.
Okay. Well, let's see what we can get to actually play here that I sent for proof recordings of the abuse and that I didn't neglect my son and that, he did the same things as he has done everywhere.
So now just keep in mind this will be what we use to send to the SBI for them to watch and among other people's so that way they can hear Landon's cry for help.
Okay, so I'm going to start with the first one then and see what we can do, okay?
Okay.
Work all the time. Hi, Landon. Hi. I'm going to tell you one of them. So one of them is where you go and so you go to this place when it's nighttime and you go and you just knock on the window inside right inside my window, and I awaken when the other kids are, and that is when I open the door and you take me home when it's nighttime, and you put a dummy inside the bed so it makes it look like I am inside the bed still. And then when the people are here, I gotta hide, and I got super good hiding spots. People never know where they are. And then when the people ask you, you gotta ask no. And when the people go and search the house, they will not find me at all.
Hey, Landon. Landon, I wished on 2 stars tonight in the sky.
What?
I wished on 2 stars in the sky tonight.
Oh, cool.
We wanted to call and say goodnight and we love you. Did you have your shower yet?
Yeah.
And your meds?
I just got out of the shower. Did you eat that? Oh, here. You can go and prove that. I got out of the shower 8 minutes ago.
Did you have your meds?
What?
Did you have your medicine?
What?
Did you have your medicine?
No, we're just going to the mess in a couple minutes.
Okay, well, we wanted to say goodnight and we loved you.
Yeah, I know.
And happy dreams.
But we're not going to mess right away. Mr. Corey said I can stay and talk to you for a couple minutes.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you. Did you enjoy your food today? Did you enjoy your food today?
Stop it, David.
Did you enjoy your food today?
Wait. You cannot not write your name on it. You have a pen. I know. You have a pen. Yeah, I know that. I know that. I know that. Stop. I know that, David. I know that. Now please stop annoying me. Yeah.
That's a good way to assert yourself, baby. I'm very proud of you. Did you eat good food today, bud?
Yeah, we just went some lasagna.
Did you get your hair cut?
Lasagna. What?
Haircut?
What?
Did you get your hair cut?
Not yet. I think wait.
So, I want to be able to tell the people that are listening here that, that recording is two parts. The first starting of it is Landon telling me of an escape plan to get him out of Connor safely through a window. And I just found out that Landon was force vaccinated with 9 illnesses at one time that could have killed him with a level of heavy metals inside it. So I'm not doing very good emotionally, and you can hear it in my voice. So my mom kind of takes over it, but I don't encourage that him to do this, and I don't say I'm going to, get him out, help him escape, and in court they're trying to say that, my case is a sensitive case because I threatened to kidnap my kid out of foster care. And that's a lie. That's not true at all. And you can clearly hear it with this recording. It was all Landon's idea to get him out of Connor safely. This is the first time he was forced there for 8 months from December 2nd, 2019. And in the same recording, you also hear that Mr. Corey, which is also still there, and my son's now back with him again at Gaines' house, he threatens to kill this kid David because he broke his favorite pen that his cousin gave him. That's just demented. And then you hear David saying, go ahead, kill me because I don't want to be here. That's a very disturbing recording right there. If that's not enough to say that, this place should be shut down for children, I don't know what is. And this is just part of what I've recorded in the time frame of my son being in forced foster care. There has been some positives that I've heard in our recordings along the way that we can cherish back, down the road, make new books together and that sort of things. I'm an author, and I taught my son how to make his own books, at 8 years old before he was taken at 9. I'm the one who taught him how to read. This school couldn't figure it out. They couldn't get him to read. And I told him, listen, Landon, I said, and you're going into first grade at the time. I said, you will have to learn how to read some sort of book before summer school is over or the summer vacation is over, because that is the right thing to do for a first grader. And I taught him how to read Green Eggs and Ham by Dr. Seuss because that was the easiest book to start with. We tried to do some other beginner readers of Dr. Seuss. They were too difficult. I ended up having to make my own beginner reader for my son. One Cat, One Dog, and One Ham is what it's called. You can get it on Amazon. My son helped me illustrate the book. And then we went through it together, and he said, Mommy's like, that is an easier book to read than the beginner books you were having me read. And then after that book, we ended up doing the Green Eggs and Ham. And from there, I had my son publicly speak on Facebook, Green Eggs and Ham, which, I could send you the link for that too. All of this has been ignored. And this is just one recording of the proof of the abuse and neglect of Connors alone. And then, you'll listen later to, recordings where my son is, I'm being told by the Connors, it's the staff at Connors, that my son peed on the heater at Fitz's house. That's what he did at home, And one day I had a conversation with Landon, and I'm like, if Uncle Tim was to take you until I can get you back, would you do that at his house? And he said, I do it wherever I'm comfortable, probably. And I said, well, then why did you not do it at the Gaines house? Because Mr. McCain threatened to beat me if I misbehaved. And then as soon as he got to the Fitz house, he peed on the heater. So, I mean, Nicole, you can hear some of the recordings already. What have you heard so far?
So far, I'm highly upset because I heard them screaming at those children. Okay, first and foremost, if you are a CPS worker, if your best interest is the children, it's considered when you take these parenting classes through the courts that's not a way to parent a child. You're supposed to get down on their level and talk to them about their behavior and how they acted and how they should know better than to act that way and what they could do better the next time instead of how they had acted in that moment. This man did not do that. This man was literally screaming at this child who's probably your son's age. And it's ridiculous. And the fact that your son is sitting there having to witness it, but they're talking about his mental health. Do you really think that is mentally healthy for this child to witness this man sitting here threatening this other kid, screaming at this child at the top of his lungs? It's not healthy for her son, and something needs to be done about it. And this is why we are doing this now, because I want this to get out to anyone and everyone who will take the time to listen, to watch this fully, to help her son, because her son is speaking out and he's been speaking out, and nobody wants to help her son. Nobody wants to take the time to listen. She's done everything she could. I'm so glad that we've came across each other, because I'm giving her another resource and I'm helping her to where other people can be made aware just what's happening at this Connors place. And someone needs to step in and shut this place down before any more of these children are hurt or abused or tortured because of breaking a pen. This man threatened this child's life. Okay? And in any form of law, that's considered communicating threats. And he done it to a minor child. Why is this man not behind bars for communicating threats to a said minor child who was in this recording as well? That's what I want to know. Why is he not behind bars? Okay, let's go with the next one.
This is a little hard because how this is actually been sent for some reason. It's not easy how it was done. So let me try another route of like today's, for example. Recently, my son was back at Connors again because of Judge Sharon M. Lavallo. And in my also opinion, personally, Jeff Harrington, my lawyer, because I gave him proof recordings that my son was abused before at Connors, and he told me he would tell the judge and show the judge, and the judge acted like she never knew anything about them. And then the last court date we had, she said, prove it to me that Landon's been abused at Connors. So I've been publicizing this publicly because you have a lot of nerve sitting there and saying to prove it to you when my lawyer was supposed to already prove it to you. And either you lie or he lies and didn't give you the proof. Either way,
Oh,
you should be criminally charged, all of you, for financially gaining for the torture of my son.
also, not only that, but before we're all said and done, I also want you to show the photo of Landon's eye while at the Connors as well. Okay, and by the way, while you're trying to do that, can you tell them exactly what this whole thing is, like the whole name of it and where it's located?
So this is Connor's Residential Treatment Center, located at 824 Delaware Avenue, Buffalo, New York, 14209. My son is at the Gaines house. My son was at the Fitz house the first time. And I moved him to the Fitz house because of the abuse that was going on at the Gaines house. Then he was abused at the Fitz house just as well. So I'm just like, these people are just ridiculous. And I was told a whole bunch of new staff is there at the Connors. You know, a lot of staff was gone. I don't care if you got rid of some of them or they quit or what their deal was. The fact that they did this to my son in the first place should be held fully legally accountable. And now the second time my son is being forced there again through Katrina DSS and possibly Josine Ford, because that's her supervisor, and then Judge Sharon M. Lavallo and the DSS attorney. And you know, he told me today that he's been abused the second time after he left the Bryants. So he's been literally abused ongoingly at Connors. And there's other kids that have been abused there too, and I have those recordings as well, and what my son said today. But unfortunately, you're not going to necessarily care about what happens to other children. You're going to be wanting to focus on my son, which to me is absolutely disgusting, because when I have proof that you're also allowing these other kids to be abused, then you should also be criminally charged for these other children as well.
Okay, and might I ask, since we're on this subject, the Gaines house and the Fitz house that you're talking about, these are all houses that is, or shall I say, like dormitories located within the Connor facility, correct?
Yes, these are uh uh these are um these are the two houses that for younger kids it's the Fitz house, and for the older kids it's for the Gaines house. But Landon's also a teenager, and he should not even be at the Gaines house, far as the fact of what ages you usually are there for. They're for teenagers. My son's 10. So I don't see how they go from like 3 to like say 5, 6, something like that at the Fitz house. And for children that are older, they go for like, 12, 13, all the way to I think 16 or something. My son's 10. Now, Landon says there's only 3 kids at the Gaines house right now, but that's not the point. It's the principle behind it.
Wait a minute. If they have 3-year-olds at that facility, then yes, I agree. This definitely needs to be looked into, because no 3-year-olds should need no kind of mental health treatment, because 3-year-olds are still learning, and it's up to the parents to teach the children how to learn, with gentle parenting and stuff of that nature, which you seem to be doing very well with Landon. I hear the way you talk to him in some of
Thanks.
these recordings, and you do an excellent job with your son. And I mean, just the way that you talk to your son on these recordings to the way these people are talking, and I don't like the fact that in some of the recordings they're speaking for your child. That upsets me more than anything. He's 10 years old. He can speak for himself. He does not need someone mocking behind him, trying to say something different when your child knows how to speak for himself.
Amen. Thank you. All right, ready? Let's try to go with the one from today real quick.
Okay.
One time when I was acting bad, one of the staff slammed me on the stairs and grabbed my shirt, grabbed my shirt while told the boss of the whole community.
Are you talking about Kevin?
No. It's not Kevin, but it's another one. Her name's called Miss Dana, and they told her, and then she fired him off of that unit. But now he's not on that unit. He's on a different unit.
Oh, is he at the Fitz house now?
No.
Is he at the teenage place?
No, because I'm at the teenage place. I'm at the house.
Right.
But there's only 3 kids though. But I'm the oldest now, so.
Okay, and so Mr. What's his name again?
Mr. Kayvon.
Mr. Kayvon, and Dana's the one who is the director, and she fired him.
Well, didn't really fire him, but kicked him off of the unit.
Yeah, that makes sense. Put him in with more kids so he can abuse them too instead of firing them, Landon. You understand how insane that sounds, right?
Yeah.
So now, so Mr. McCain is gone though, right?
Yeah, Ron kind of went with him though, even though he was a little bit violent, he set me on the bed. Okay, so here's a choice. Would you rather get slammed on your bed, or would you rather get slammed on the ground or get slammed on the stairs? In my opinion, I'd rather get slammed on the bed because it's cozier.
Oh, I hear that, but you do realize that being violent with you for no reason, for any reason at all, is not acceptable, right? You know, it's against the law, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that, Nicole?
I think that man has assaulted a minor child. That man should be pressed with charges for assaulting said minor child. There's better ways to cope with children who are in a hospital or a program such as your son's. And most of the time, children are giving medication to calm them down. They're never assaulted. And for your son to be assaulted by this man and still work at this program after he's already assaulted one kid at a different unit and then goes to another unit and assaults another child and then gets put in another unit is just ridiculous. All he's going to do is keep assaulting these children. And it's not fair to these children that they go in these programs thinking that they're safe where they're supposed to be safe, and they are constantly assaulted by someone. That's not right. That's not fair. And that's not legal. This man needs to have charges pressed against him for assaulting not only one child, but at least 2 children at this program who are minor children, people. Minor children. Not adults, but minors. You take and think about it. CPS takes children for supposedly being assaulted by their parents, for being spanked on their butts or whatever by a parent, and that's physical abuse to the child. Okay, how is it fair that a parent loses their child, but these children are being placed in this program and they're not the parents of the child, and they are assaulting these children and getting away with it? You need to do more investigation into this place. Point blank, period. This goes out to the SBI. This goes out to the news. This goes out to everyone who is listening. You need to investigate the Connors place in Buffalo, New York, because they are abusing these children. You have heard it firsthand, straight from her son's mouth. He is being abused and assaulted at this place, and something needs to be done to save these children before they are hurt even more.
Exactly. And I also want to put out there that far as medication goes, I am not one to agree with psychotropic drugs as unless it's a last case scenario, it's an emergency. There's no other options out there. I already talked to my counselor, Melissa, in the East Aurora Rural Outreach Center. And she told me that the proper therapy is what Landon needs, and that is more effective, in her opinion, than even pharmaceutical psychotropic drugs. Now, I will also, say this, and you guys can look this up yourself. All pharmaceutical psychotropic drugs are is Thorazine dumbed down. That's giving you a chemical lobotomy through a drug version, and that's no joke. And I don't agree with drugging kids so you can dumb down their emotions so they don't fight as hard to come back to their families, because that's exactly what you do. And then on top of it, like my friend Chrissy, she was put into a mental institution and she has cirrhosis of the liver and to get a liver transplant later down the road. Other children have been drugged through this system to dumb down their emotions and easier succumb to authority, as well as keep giving the little bonuses that you guys get for when you sit there and you steal people's children and drug them. But anyways, these kids are coming out of these foster places and they are irreparable damage. They cannot get back their real children. Their physical bodies have went to crap. Their mental health has went to crap because of these pharmaceutical drugs. I just watched a TV show, and I believe it was Francesca Amato that just did a For Punished for Protecting, where these children in DCF, I think it is in Florida, there's an old DSF worker, and she was showing pictures of these kids over-drugged where they don't even look like themselves. Physically, they look deformed. On top of that, they are so medicated and over medicated that they can't even speak out what they know is truth of what the abuse and neglect they've gone through. So in my opinion, you drug these kids so they will shut up faster and not tell their truth. They're easier to succumb to authority, and so therefore that's what you do this for. So I do not condone this whatsoever. If I feel that my son needs psychotropic pharmaceutical drugs, I will be the one to decide that that's the time. Otherwise, homeopathic psychotropic drugs, like my son's medical holistic doctor, Ronald D. Whitmont, gave him holistic homeopathic pellets to help him with focusing and his aggression at the time. And it was starting to work before you guys took him on December 2nd, 2019, lawlessly. So I have this in the bag. I got the right therapist. I got, different medical professionals and stuff to deal with my son in a holistic way, in a wholesome way, get to the root cause of why Landon is what he is, make sure his nutrition is up to par, because a lot of behaviors are lacking proper nutrition, and there's a bunch of garbage that's in the diet that's causing them to act up and things. These are the things I like to do as a wholesome mother. Your system are never going to sit there and do this kind of work that I do because you don't care. It's my son's a paycheck. He's a number to you. You don't care. And so I think that's really gross. And again, you will be all criminally charged soon enough for the crimes against me and my son.
By the way, just know that I didn't mean that directly towards your son about them needing medications. I'm just going based off of what I know for a fact that normally they typically do in facilities like this, just because I know people myself who have, been there, and when they go into a fit, normally they always give them some kind of shot to calm them down or whatever it's called. I don't know exactly what it is, but I'm just going based off of that. They don't assault children. This man is literally assaulting these children, people. I mean, open your eyes. When her child sits here and says, hey, I'm being assaulted, I have been thrown down these stairs, basically slammed on the stairs. Imagine how his back feels. And do you think they're going to take him to the hospital to make sure that his back is not, okay? No, they're not. Her child has to literally sit there and suffer in pain because of the fact that this man assaulted her child. And it's not like she can just walk in there and take her child, because she's going through, CPS court to fight to get her child, but yet she's in the wrong for how she done her child. No, she's not, because she is his mother. She has a right to choose his medical care, which is given in the Constitution. You have a right to choose what way you want to do things when it comes to your child, whether you want to vaccinate or not vaccinate, whether you want to do holistic, whether you want to do, pills from the government that the government create or whatever. You have a right to be vegan, you have a right to be vegetarian, you have a right to be meat eaters. It's all on what the parent chooses to do with their child. Do you know how many unvaccinated people there are in this world that's not losing their children? Why did they take her son? Answer that one, because we would all love to know. Okay.
Well, depending on who you talk to, the recent thing is that my parenting style doesn't match up to the states.
It doesn't matter if your parenting style matches up to the states or not, because I put it to you this way. Everyone parents different. Nobody parents the same. Nobody, not everyone does gentle parenting. Not everyone eats meat. Not everyone eats vegetarian. Not everyone eats vegan. I mean, you've got people who believe in letting their children use electronics. You got people who don't believe in allowing their children to use electronics. You got people who like to live in RVs and travel the world. You've got people who like to have a home that is stable for their children to grow up in and have memories in, and it does not matter if it fits the state's agenda or not. You have a right to live your life with your child how you see fit, as long as your child is not starving, as long as your child is not being beaten, as long as your child is not being, abused, neglected, stuff like that. It doesn't matter. Your child is being taken care of. And no offense, I mean, look, you got people who homeschool, people who choose not to homeschool. It's because it's a freedom that is given in the Constitution. Literally, it is an American right for you to be able to literally, okay, you can do it based on religious, scientific beliefs. It does not matter. You have that right. Just like, you have the right to choose whether you want to do Christianity or Buddhism or Wiccan or pagan. It does not matter. That is rights that is given to you under the Constitution. And these rights are being violated to
Yep.
not only Jody, but to Landin as well, because she is his mother. And as long as he lives under her roof, until he is a legal adult in the state government's eyes, he has to understand that this is their way of life. When he gets older, he can choose to go differently if he wants to. But that's when he's older. As of right now, he is still a minor, and Jody is still legally responsible for her child. And Jody is doing what she feels is in the best interest of her child. So their agenda, just because it doesn't match what she does not make it that her way of living life and her way of choosing to do things with her child is any less right than the way the government sees.
Exactly. And that's what it comes down to. It comes down to that I am the kind of person that, it states even in the Supreme Court ruling that the government, and I will also say any set authority, just because that takes care of everybody. They are not to interfere with the child rearing and raising of a parent, and there's actually a particular, said, verse and everything in it with, statute codes and things like that. But it's still, that's what it shows. And the fact that these lower courts are not respecting the law, they're not following the law, they're violating the law, they're violating ADA law, they're violating ADA rights, parental rights, everything. I mean, it's absolutely just dumbfounds me that the higher courts are not making these people follow the law.
And no offense, but they need to go back and they need to read the statutes on your state. and what laws are under the state, because you have your local government laws, but you also have your state laws as well. And I'm pretty sure that New York is the same state, well, has some of the same similar state laws as my state, and I'd rather not give them my information of what state I'm in. But I would like for them to know that when it boils down to it, no judge, no courts have the right to tell you whether you can or whether you cannot homeschool your children, or whether your children have to go to a brick and mortar school. So, I mean, they don't even have a right to choose like the child's education. It's up to the parent to choose which route they want to go. I had that right violated by a judge in my state, where they ordered that my child had to go to a brick and mortar school and could not go to a homeschool, even though my children were being homeschooled at the time. And I found it outright ridiculous because of the fact, that they were established in there and my children were having a really good time with their homeschooling program. And that right was violated because these judges and these lawyers get in here and just think, oh, it's okay, and these lawyers know the laws, and these lawyers are allowing these judges to sit here and violate these laws without speaking up for being scared that, they're going to be shunned in the community and wouldn't be able to practice, in the area that they live in. And my fiance had a lawyer one time, and this lawyer was honest with him. He said, you know what? He said, one thing I learned as a lawyer is, he said, never practice close to home. He said, never live in the same community that you were a judge in. He said, I live in a different county. He said, but I work in a different county from where I live as a lawyer. He said, because at the end of the day, you're fighting for someone. You're fighting for their rights, their liberties. You take an oath to stand up for what is right and what is wrong, even as a lawyer.
Amen.
And these lawyers just don't care. Here
Nope.
lately, they have gotten to where they're allowing people to do the wrong thing, even a judge, and not stand up for the corruption that these judges are doing.
Exactly. And that's what it comes down to. These are officers of the court, and they do not follow the laws. They do not follow the Constitution. I mean, the way I see it, and this is the truth, people, that, whether you want to admit this or not, when you are listening to what's being going on right now, while you're listening to these recordings, these proof recordings of my son being abused and neglected, at just alone Connors, okay? And you're not doing anything to actually stop it, you will be also criminally charged because you are an accessory to the fact. You are listening to the crimes be done. You are watching the crimes be done, and you're doing jack nothing about it. And you will pay for that. You will pay legally for that. So I hope that you're happy with yourself for not doing jack crap, because you will get that back. So I would suggest that you definitely do something about it immediately and send my son home to me now.
Okay, if you wouldn't mind, could you play the next recording I'd like to hear them hear would be the one where your son had said, ouch.
Oh, when Miss Lacey abused him, I think she pinched him. And I wrote a police report in Springville, and they mocked me. And then I find out today when I call the police that because it's in Buffalo, they expect me to go to Buffalo and write out a report about today's incident. That makes no sense at all. And my ADA advocate, Francesca Amato, got on the phone and said that is a reasonable accommodation to make this report over the phone for how far she is. And so far, we have not gone anywhere, but we were supposed to be talking to an SVU detective possibly tomorrow about this. So that will be interesting because they have not, we tried making justice reports in the past for Connors, and all they do is they're employees of Connors that just sweep crap under the rug and allow my son to be further abused, and it's totally okay.
Okay, and let's keep in mind, people, this is the same place where in 2001 there was a lawsuit filed for sexual assault on children at this program. Okay. So this isn't just, sexual assault. This is physical abuse happening to these children at this program, at this place. And nobody is wanting to do anything about this. Something needs to be done. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about this. If children are being sexually abused, what makes y'all think that these children are not being physically abused as well? Here is the proof. Here is your pudding. Do your work, do your research, get this place shut down like it needs to be, because these children do not deserve to be abused. I don't care who you are. If you are an advocate for a child, you will do justice and you will spread the word on the fact that children are being abused, assaulted, they're being thrown on stairs, they're being threatened by these people, and some children have been sexually assaulted in this place. What more do you need?
Yeah, actually, my son was sexually assaulted there as well. I'll tell you the story about it before I tell you about Miss Lacey. So one day, my son tells me that he was in the TV room, and this other boy tried to force him down on the sofa and try to force kiss him, and this other older boy had to stop it. And when I confronted the female staff about it, which I do also have a recording of, but I don't at the moment find it. But anyways, she said, well, I was attending to another child and he was having a safety issue. Would you rather me have your son be there when he's having a safety issue and your son could get hurt? Or do you think your son should be able to watch himself for 2 seconds or 2 minutes while I attend to this other child? And when I sat there and told her that there was no excuse for her to sit there and make justifications for not watching my special needs child 24/7 while being there, she sat there and was like, well, I don't want to talk about this anymore. I don't want to get in trouble. I stand by my staff and we do the best we can here and blah, blah, blah. And then she sits there, interrogates my son, and tries to make him switch his story and say that he gave her a different answer than he gave me. And then, I mean, it was absolutely disgusting. So it's nice that I have all these recordings because eventually I'll be able to play them all for my son and I'll be able to say, okay, can you explain this story to me? What happened here? Because I always encourage him to tell the truth regardless. Now, some of these things that I tried to bring up to him today, he don't remember these abuses. He don't remember these stories. So, I mean, obviously the recollection will come back little by little. And by listening to his own voice, he'll be able to tell me what actually happened much more. But this is also what happens with trauma, folks. You can't remember every little detail of your traumas. And that's because of the brain damage that you get when you have trauma. So this is the recording of Miss Lacey physically assaulting my son. I made a police report about it. I showed the cops here in Springville. They mocked me. There's a police card for it. And there was nothing being done about this. And this was before.
And can you say Miss Lacey works at this program, correct?
Miss Lacey did. I don't know if she does anymore.
Okay.
Well, hold on. Let me see if I can even get to play. Wow. It doesn't want to play. Let me see what else I can figure out because that is really very challenging. And I just want to let you know, too, while I'm sitting there trying to figure this out, I really appreciate your time, Nicole, in this.
Not a problem. Like I said, I mean, it's getting ridiculous that this place is even still open and that it's still running when there's been, a book published about this place from someone who was actually at the place. The fact that there's a pending sexual assault case on this place, and then these recordings of your son talking about what's going on there, and how he's being abused and tortured there, and how other kids are being abused and tortured, and nobody stepping up to try to do anything. I'm not going to let this slide. As a
Right.
mother of 7 myself, if my kid comes to me and tells me that something happened to them, I'm going to take action just like you have been, just like you've been trying to do. The only difference is, I've learned through the legal loopholes of people to reach out to, and people who need to take action and who need to be made aware of what's going on at, this Connor's place. Might I add, I am in the South. I don't know if you can tell by my accent, but I'm not sure how different it is there than it is here. But I do know that when my child tells me something, I'm going to believe it. And so Landon's telling you, I'm going to believe it. And I'm speaking out. Not only is his mother speaking out, but I am speaking out as well, because these children need help.
Yes, exactly. And they need to not be silenced. Their voice needs to be loud and clear, and they need to be protected and safe. So I'm going to try this again. Let me see what happens. This one doesn't want to either. Okay, let me see what else I can figure out. This is absolutely ridiculous. I should never had to have done this in the first place. I'm just mortified that I have to sit there. I try to record my son and time that we have together, and then this stuff happens. I mean, it's just disgusting.
I've noticed that y'all don't actually have a lot of time together either during these, calls that y'all have, which is kind of ridiculous in my opinion, because even though you're having to do it over different platforms, it should still be the allotted amount of time that you would get if you were there in person. And they need to start pulling it to where the child can talk to the parent without having all these other children screaming and yelling in the background and stuff. No, I mean, I don't mean that in the worst way possible.
It's absolutely disrupting to the child's mental status. Yes, it's disgusting. That's exactly what I
interrupting to the visit. I mean, that's your allotted time with your child. They shouldn't have other children around. I mean, I don't see all these other parents who visit their kids via FaceTime or whatever on through DSS or whatnot, having all these other kids screaming and yelling in the background and stuff. They get quality one-on-one time to speak with their child, with a person there supervising the visit, so that way they know what's being said and what's not being said. And also, in some of these recordings that she has of her son, again, you'll hear people in the background talking, saying things that are adults, trying to get him to not say the things that he's saying, not speak on the things that he's speaking about, which, in my opinion, is wrong. Again, as she said, they should be able to speak freely. They are trying to silence these children, make them hide what is going on at this place, because they don't want to be in trouble, because they know that they are in the wrong. And this needs to stop as well.
Yep, there you go. So let's try this one real quick.
To relax. I want you to feel peace, and I want you to smile. I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to breathe, and I want you to focus on your breathing. Just breathe in and breathe out. You're breathing in the good, you're releasing the negative. Now I want you to relax and feel peace and smile. Did you do that, buddy Max? What? Good boy. I'm proud of you, buddy. You see? Did you enjoy that? Did you feel more peaceful? Lanny?
So, I mean, that's just disgusting to me that the cops would just mock something like that. I mean, you could clearly know that my son was physically abused by Miss Lacey there.
Yes, because she literally says, answer her. And then he yells, ow. And then she says, answer her, forcing him to answer you by putting her hands on him and hurting him somehow, some way, although we're not sure which way, how. But we do know that her son said, ouch, because he was hurt for not answering his mother in a responsible amount of time, according to Miss Lacey. Again, that is another physical sign of her son being abused by a staff member who we don't know if still works there yet or not, but another staff member, shall I say, at this Connor place. I mean, it's ridiculous that she has all of this proof of her son and what he's saying, and it's not being taken seriously. Her son's still sitting here suffering. Nobody wants to investigate. Nobody wants to press charges on these staff members that are assaulting these children or threatening these children, that are violating laws. But because they are a member of medical staff, they are deemed appropriate in the eyes of the courts, and they can get away with whatever they're doing to these children. Not
Some of them aren't
anymore.
medical at all. Some of them are literally just workers. They don't have any experience with children whatsoever.
Well, in my opinion, they should have at least some kind of um degree when it comes to dealing with children,
Yep.
at all, like even early childhood education or something. They need to have some kind of degree, daycare, whatever it may be, to deal with these children. And why are these people even in here if they don't have a medical license to deal with children who have mental disabilities, physical disabilities, social disabilities, learning disabilities, whatever the case may be?
Exactly.
Why are they in here taking care of these children when they're not qualified? You're
Exactly.
supposed to go to school to get qualified to work in a hospital for, say a psychiatric ward for a child, or you have to have a degree in mental health, to be able to diagnose a child with mental health. Why is that not the same working at this Connor's place?
Exactly. Because the state pays these people to be crooks and be part of the child trafficking industry to adopt children out without their parents or natural family's permission. Because it's all a big game, it's all a big paycheck for everybody. Because without stealing the children, none of these people have jobs. That's what it comes down to. Stealing children so people can have jobs. So let's listen to Landin say about Mr. McCain threatens to beat him if he misbehaves.
I like to fight with him all the time, and I really like the wrestles, and I like the me and all the other kids wrestle on my amateur. Sometimes I get hurt, sometimes they get hurt, so then when one of the staff member went out on the play fight,
I remember you telling me. Let me just talk real quick. This is important, Landin.
and then the other kids not listening, but I do. So what happened is I would like to have my thing watch wrestle on them.
That's fine, but I don't want you wrestling with the other kids. And we had this conversation back when you were at the Fitz house that that's not appropriate behavior. So I want you to just not do it anymore. Do you understand, Mama?
Okay, but I can't do it anymore anyway.
Good, because I don't want you to.
If I do, I'll get my butt beat in my Mr. King.
What'd you say?
I said I cannot do it anyway because if I do, I'll get my butt beat in by Mr. King.
Mr. Kane has hit you before? No, but he doesn't no, he didn't do it before. No, he never did it because I never did nothing wrong to make him angry. But he did, so that's why every time when he's here, I listen every time he's here. That's good, but you're telling me though he's threatened to hit you if you misbehave, is what you're saying. Yeah. Interesting. Thank you very much, sweetheart. Appreciate you. But actually, is actually allowed to do that sometimes? No, they're not allowed to do that. You're my child, not theirs. Absolutely not.
Okay, so you can clearly see where Landin was going to tell me some more stuff. My son was going to tell me more stuff, and unfortunately, it didn't come out then. Now, I don't know if Mr. McCain hit him or slammed him on the bed then during this conversation that he did not tell me. Because, see, this is another thing about special needs children and people. We're very technical. So, for example, Landin today told me, Mr. McCain never hit me. He slammed me on my bed. See, to him, that's not abuse, or that's not the same. And technically, he hit him on his bed. He slammed him on his bed. So, I mean, to me, that could be a form of hitting. It's all about perception of somebody. But ultimately, it's still physical assault to a child, to my child. And then you hear Landin in one of the recordings, I believe it was today, talking about how he was minimizing what would I rather have happen. Mr. McCain slamming me on my bed, or Mr. Kayvon slamming me on the stairs on my back. And he said he'd rather have Mr. McCain slam him on his bed because there's more cushion. That is horrible trauma. That is what we do in trauma. We minimize our abusers. We minimize the abuses that we've gone through. And I know this because I've gone through this. I went through this with my son's biological, and, we're trying to heal from the trauma of him and what he's put us through. And it's interesting because, the courts wanted to give custody to my rapist. My son's name is Landin Hart Fuller, and he told me that it will be Landin Hart Fuller. I won't be involved. That is a form of abuse. My son's name was built out of abuse, born out of abuse. The police reports I showed the state, and they still almost considered him to be have custody with his dad. That's also a pedophile like him, and it's real bad stuff. I mean, the system's about wanting to put children in with abusers, and it's got to stop. So Mr. McCain threatened Landin to beat him if he misbehaved. That's some serious stuff. I mean, literally, these children are being they're being threatened to be beaten, or they are being beaten, or they're being physically assaulted for them to basically obey. And that's just disgusting to me, because you don't do this to special needs children, especially. You don't do this stuff to children, period. And you have no right to use corporal punishment on anybody's child that's not yours. And I don't care if the state gave you temporary custody or not. That is not your child. That child did not come out of your womb. That child is not yours. And so therefore this needs to stop. And my son needs to come home now, because this is ridiculous. My child for 2+ years has been suffering in silence and keeps reaching out to me, telling me all these things that's happening, and nobody cares.
Okay, so I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say this first and foremost. Yes, Mr. McCain, that's the one who threatened Landon, may have put a stipulation, as some states would say. I don't know how your laws are in New York because I do not live there, but he may have put a stipulation on him putting his hands on Landon. But as you heard Landon say, Mr. McCain threatened that if he misbehaved, he was going to put his hands on Landon. Okay? A 10-year-old child.
At the time, he was 9.
Oh, well, a 9-year-old child at the time. Sorry. I just know he's 10 now. But the simple fact of the matter is, that's still a threat. This man has no right to put his hands on this child whatsoever, even if the child misbehaves. He is in a residential facility, correct?
Yeah, a residential treatment center because of his mental health issues, having incontinence issues and sexual behaviors and aggression issues.
So this child, you know, who is going through all of this is being threatened that if he don't control his mental health issues or his aggression issues or whatever the issue may be, that a grown man is going to put his hands on this said child who was 9 years old at the time. You wouldn't want a parent going around threatening, their child. You don't like it. Oh, like if you misbehave in the store, I'm going to whip your butt, blah, 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 and stuff. Parents are looked down upon that. But you have this facility here, sitting here doing this to children that they have no rights to. Yes, the children are in the so-called state's custody at the moment, even though, in my opinion, the state should never have custody of a child, at all. But the fact of the matter is that this facility, yes, he may be there right now, but the facility is responsible for the child to be returned to wherever the child needs to be returned to. This child has been suffering for 2 years. 2 years.
2+ years since December 2nd, 2019.
So, yeah, 2+ years. That's, what are we on? We're on the 2nd of July, so December 2019, 2020, 2021. Hold on, sorry. We're in July, so 2 years, 7 months exactly to the date.
Almost 3 years.
Huh? Yes.
Almost 3 years.
So for 2 years, 7 months to the date, this child has been sitting here suffering, being abused by people at this facility, been speaking out, about what's going on, and nobody wants to do anything.
And he's now been forced there twice. He was there for 8 months when he was 9, and then he got away, and then he went to every other place under the sun. They couldn't handle him either, and they admitted it. And then they put him right back at Connors for the second time when he already sat there and said he was abused and neglected before and completely ignored. And then they put him right back again, ignored again, and now we're here.
Okay, so this is the second time your son has been. Can you tell me how long he has been there the second time?
I think 4 months he's going on right now currently.
Okay, so roughly 4 months, a second time that this child has been abused at this facility.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know about how long he was there the first time?
About 8 months, I think.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, you did say that, didn't you? My bad. So the first time, 8 months. The second time, going on 4 months. That's 12 months. That's a whole year.
That's pretty demented.
2 years, 7 months that this child has been away from his mother. A year at this Connor facility. He's been abused. It may not be every day. It could happen multiple times a day. It may not be every week. It could happen multiple times a week. You never know. But the fact of the matter remains that this child is being abused. This child is being bullied. This child is trying to be silenced. This child is being forced to do things. As you heard, because he didn't answer his mother, he screamed, ouch, because they forced him to speak and answer his mother. Yes, it might be his mother, and you're thinking, oh, well, they're just trying to get him to answer his mother. But the child screamed, ouch. Yes, he may be there for mental health, but in my state, we have this program called Trauma Focused Cognitive Behavior Therapy. I have a child who suffers from PTSD. My child was sexually assaulted at, hold on, what year was that? My child was 5 years old when my child was sexually assaulted. My child told me the things that had happened. I took my child to the hospital and I got my child checked out. Come to find out, what my child had said was true. My child started having issues, and DSS had got involved because of the fact that my child had been sexually assaulted at that time. The perpetrator is in prison. The perpetrator is serving 16 to 24 years in prison for what they did to my child. But the fact of the matter is, there was a really good worker here. Her name was Brittany, and I love Brittany to death. God, if I can ever say that there was ever one good CPS worker ever in the system, that lady was it. Brittany said that a lot of times when they come out, they always want to try to put, the fact that the child having issues is because of the parent or blah, 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 or something, when in all reality, that's not always the case. They had this program, which was the trauma focused cognitive behavior therapy. My child went there. They done this little test. They, asked me questions. I gave them the answers. And my child scored for having PTSD. And the program, was so many therapy sessions. And if you felt like your child was able, and better at learning how to do coping skills or how to express themselves or whatever, then you could be released. If you wanted to continue, you could continue. And because of Brittany, I found that program. Brittany left CPS to become a therapist at this program because she felt it was better suitable and better helpful for them children to be at that program than to be at CPS. Because the only reason I learned out about this facility is because Brittany had been going to school to do this therapy program. This therapy program helped my child a lot. It was amazing. And again, as Jody said earlier, not all the times do they need to be placed in facilities. There's a thing called therapy. People go to school to learn to be therapists for a reason. Because most of the time, when you're dealing with a CPS case, they want mothers or fathers to go to therapy, for reasons unknown. Oh, you're going through trauma, you have PTSD, whatever, because you've lost your children. Do y'all not see a cycle? The parents are suffering, the children are suffering, they're being ripped away from each other. Children are getting separation anxiety because of the fact that they're being ripped from the only thing that they've ever known. And, I mean, you want the parents to do therapy. Why not the children? I mean, in all honesty, she said the therapy was working. She said that who was it you said that said his therapy had been working until he was taken from you?
No, I said his the medicine that I decided to try on him with his holistic medical doctor, Ronald D. Whitmont in Rhinebeck, New York. He gave me some homeopathic pellets that because he asked, "What do you want to work on?" And I said, "Well, he's really challenging to try to homeschool. He's got aggression right now. He's not focusing, and it's really challenging to try to homeschool him because right now they're not helping me to homeschool him officially, so I'm unofficially homeschooling him, trying to get him back to school with your 2 medical exemptions." He said, "Okay, would you like to try some homeopathic medicine?" And I said, "Yeah." And so we tried that, and it was for focus and aggression, and it was starting to work. And we were supposed to follow up with him but my son was taken too fast. Like,
Okay. But you did mention someone had suggested that he needed the therapy would be best for him or
well,
something.
he was in counseling. He had an in-home counselor, Kate McDonald. She was also CPS, induced. And so my son had a problem with empathy and personal responsibility. Even Brennan Giglio said that we couldn't take him into the community with the other children until he was respectful and appropriate with his therapist. At the one time, he had a therapist. She was a skill builder, and she tried to take him to the park, and he started screaming. And she was afraid the cops would be called, so she brought him back. And because he didn't respect her, I figured, well, within 4 to 6 months, my child should have some sort of respect for his therapist. So I asked Kate McDonald, his other therapist, his actual counselor. I said, could you take on Sarah's job and yours too if I was to let her go? Because I don't think that it's working out if he's not respecting her. And she said yes. So basically, nobody was able to help my son before he got taken. They couldn't figure it out, and they just wanted to keep throwing pharmaceutical drugs in the thought of it. My son's sexual behaviors, they wanted to force him with a sexual therapist. And back in 2018, Dr. Amy Diapasqua, she diagnosed my son with ADHD and ODD, and we talked about his bedwetting issues. We talked about his sexual behaviors, and she said, wait till he's like 12 years old because it's too traumatizing. At the time he was 7 when she saw him. She's like, it's too traumatizing to deal with a child that is that young to give him a sexual assessment. If he was abused and this is why he's doing these things, it will come out later. Wait till he's like 12. And I was like, are you serious? Because I'm really concerned, like there's this kid, Josh, that exposed himself on the bus to him and stuff like that. And like, he's been humping since he was 2 years old and, he's now 7. And she was like, no, she's like, I'm not worried about it. Just keep him in counseling. Remember what I told you. And you're doing fine. We talked about his bedwetting issues. And she said there's a hit and miss medication, but she said it doesn't work for all kids. I personally don't like to play with hit and miss medication because it's not guaranteed. She said he will eventually grow out of the bedwetting as well. So, you can look at the effects, see if it's something that you're interested in. And if you're not okay with the effects of the medication, then we don't have to go that route. So I looked at the medication effects. And I did not feel it was comfortable to take for my son. She said, that's fine. It's your right. It's his mother to decide his medical, choices and treatment. Keep doing what you're doing. You're doing fine. And
Okay. Go ahead.
So we ended up learning about desmopressin. And twice, I will also mention that at Connors, they want to give my son desmopressin. It's a bedwetting medication, and it causes seizures and death. That's the worst side effects of it. And they, Katrina DSS, she asked me if I wanted to sign the consent. She sent me a consent that said that seizures was the worst case scenario for desmopressin. I looked up my own research and I found out that it causes also death. I suggested a bedwetting alarm pad system for my son. I even gave him a medical code for his doctor to write the prescription for the bedwetting alarm system. I found out that is actually a cure, a long-term cure for bedwetting than the desmopressin is. It's a hit and miss medication. It may not even work at all, and those horrible side effects. I also suggested a homeopathic bedwetting drops that I found is another option. I've been completely ignored of it all. So when it comes to actual therapy, when we talked about it in court, they mentioned the last time we were there that no therapist has been working on Landin's sexual behaviors. They just now recently have. My counselor, Melissa, said she would take on my son and me. She would watch my son or not watch my son. She would check in with us every other day to see how we were doing when he comes home. She would have individual counseling with me and also individual counseling with my son and actual family counseling as well. So we would be seeing my counselor quite a bit for when Landon comes home. She also wanted to get that sexual therapist license, degree or whatever. So in case Landon did need that, he would also be able to fall back on that. But she also found out through this process of everything I was going through with my son that Dr. Amy was correct in what she said. She called the Child Advocacy Center in Buffalo, New York, and asked them about Landon and the Child Advocacy Center about the sexual behaviors and when they actually suggest the module that they use to be used. And it said anywhere from 13 to 17 years old, and the lowest age is 12. So she collaborates with Dr. Amy said in 2018.
Okay. So, another note here is, they're talking about the sexual behaviors, but yet they have not done anything until recently about your son and his sexual behaviors, which is a failure of the system, in my opinion, if you ask me. But
Yep.
of course, that's just my opinion. But secondly, um, it's okay. I'm not gonna say it's wrong, but I have a niece who went to bed till she was like 12, 13 years old. And it's just because sometimes your body doesn't adjust properly, and it could be an underlying issue as to why there is bedwetting that's happening, which my niece just never could feel herself, get full. So they had to limit, what time she had to stop drinking by and stuff like that. And I myself had issues as a child with wetting the bed. And a lot of times I would be out like playing, and I'd have to go to the bathroom, and I would literally have to like kneel down and hold it, because it just like this urge would come over me all of a sudden, and it was just too much for me to try to run to go to the bathroom, because I feel like I would, use the bathroom all over myself. And a lot of times my mama would pick me up and run me to the bathroom because she knew I needed to go. And they ran tests on me and found out that I actually have a smaller bladder than most people of typical size. And that's why when urges hit me, even now as an adult, I still have that problem sometimes. But again, I did have my bladder damaged during one of my C sections. So a little bit is played onto that of why I have this issue as an adult. But I literally sometimes I just have to stop what I'm doing and run to the bathroom. And it's normal even as an adult to have incontinence issues. I mean, you don't see people shaming these grown adults who have to order incontinence supplies because they have an issue to where they can't make it to the bathroom in enough time and end up using the bathroom on themselves. So why are people shaming a 10-year-old child for having incontinence issues that he can grow out of when he's like 12 years old? I mean, it's very typical, but they're using all of these issues against her and her son as to why her child has been taken from her. And it's, he's placed in an institution place or whatever, because of all of these issues, but yet he's being abused instead of, encouraged. Hey, we're going to have a good day. We're going to go to the bathroom. And do you not think that he's not going to use the bathroom on himself more while he's away from his mother, because he's not happy, he's being mistreated, he's being abused at this location? That's all signs that he's regressing, not progressing. I'm done.
I agree. I also have incontinence issues. Since I was 12 years old, I've had a weak bladder. I, at one point, went and saw I think it's called a urologist, and they said that my bladder can hold 300 cc's and the average bladder can hold 600. Since having my son, um, not as bad, but obviously when you carry a baby in your womb for 9 months, it does weigh on your physical body, including your bladder, and makes it worse. Since the situation with my son has happened, my PTSD triggers have increased exponentially. I will have an accident from crying too hard or screaming so loud because I'm so tortured mentally that my son is in physical danger every day that he's not with me, and he is in this forced foster care system that keeps failing him over and over again. But they're trying to make him adoptable. That's what they're trying to do, so they can successfully get what they want out of this case. There's times where, I will sneeze and I'll have an accident, cough too hard and I'll have an accident. It's very embarrassing. And, incontinence actually runs in my family. My mom had a bladder suspension back, I don't even know how many years ago after having kids. And, my OBGYN told me that, she doesn't want to try to give me any kind of surgery or anything until later down the road, because she don't feel that it's the right time to do this right now. All the trauma I'm going through, I also just beat cancer because of these people and the trauma shock of what they do to me and to my son. And I was able to heal it, thank God, physically, but mentally I'm not allowed to heal because they literally just keep putting a bus on top of me telling me you need to heal, you have to heal. I mean, that's not even possible. You can't heal in the trauma. My trauma counselor actually said, and many other counselors that I talked to that were trauma therapists said the same thing. So they're literally keeping us in physical trauma and being able to just keep having more medical issues down the road and mental health issues that could come about because they constantly just keep you in ongoing trauma.
I'm listening.
So, I mean, I'm trying to find the one recording where they deprive my son of his supper at Connor's, and I currently can't find it, but I'll tell you the story first, what happened. So the one day we were seeing my son at Connor's, and at one point I asked Landon what he had for lunch, and he said he didn't eat lunch. And I said, why didn't you eat lunch? He goes, I don't know. They didn't feed me. And I sat there and I looked at the guy, I believe it was Kevin at the time. And I said, this is like totally not acceptable. Literally, my son didn't eat. You guys didn't figure out how to feed him. We're going right to the kitchen right now, and we're going to go create a sandwich for my son. You got it? So we went to the kitchen and we got my son a sandwich, and he sat down and he ate it. And I told him, I said, now if I wouldn't have stepped in and said something, my kid would have went hungry. And you find this acceptable to be doing to my child, being special needs alone? So anyways, we leave the facility and we go home. We take a good night call to my son, and we ask him what he had for supper, and he said he didn't eat dinner. And I said, what do you mean? And he goes, I didn't eat supper and I don't know why. And I said, why don't you go and ask the staff why they didn't feed you supper? So he asked him, he goes, excuse me, why didn't you feed me any supper today? And he just completely gets ignored. And that's not the first time.
That's just beyond crazy. Because normally they typically allow you to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and you can have snacks in between, especially during group sessions.
Yeah, well, I was told by another lady who was actually at a residential treatment center as well. I don't remember what state she was in and what it was called. I don't remember off the top of my head, but it was on Fran's show. And she said that they beat and starve the children that misbehave. That's what facilities like this in the system do. They starve the children that misbehave.
Well, that makes sense because my son was placed in a mental institution on my birthday this year in March by his dad and his grandmother. I'm in the midst of a custody battle with them. And it showed that within 4 days, my son went from 160 pounds to 110 pounds. Maintained that weight for well over a month and was placed in the hospital due to a seizure study he needed to have because of him having seizures. And he went from 110 pounds from April to June. He's up to 100. Yeah, he was placed in there in June to 171 pounds.
That's horrible.
Which is also not healthy considering the fact that he's already got to see a dietitian over his weight, and he was, at a healthy weight, and now he's back overweight because of his father and his grandmother, and the state doesn't want to take action and intervene with, what's going on for him health-wise.
Because they don't care.
Nope, they feel as if it's okay, that their dad knows what they're doing because, hey, I'm just his mother, right? I'm the one who raised him for the first 7 years of his life.
Yeah, they don't care. In fact, and this might sound kind of, some people may not agree with this, but I truly think that they try to kill the parents, the natural family, the good, protective, loving ones, by the torture mentally that they put these parents through, especially mothers, single mothers, disabled mothers, because they don't think that you're good enough to take care of your child if you're disabled. They think that, they can raise children better than you can, and that you're less than something because you have a different lifestyle lived than other people do. But anyways, because the mental torture manifests in the physical body, and that's why people will constantly be getting like gastrointestinal issues like myself has gotten. Cancer is a really big one that people are getting with these courts and the trauma that they're causing the parents in the children that they force in these foster care system in courts. There's a lot that goes on. I actually got a concussion at Apple Tree Business Park in Cheektowaga, New York, on the DSS property. I actually tripped and fell over a root that was inside of the grass, and I fell against the brick wall, and I got a concussion, and my back and my neck was all messed up. And actually, now I think about it, could be also that now those effects are really, really affecting my back. I never really looked at that because it can take years for manifestation of physical abuse to your body, whether it's in a car accident or whatever. And I've been in many. To happen. And it can also be, down the road a little bit lesser than, later. It's been since last May that I had this concussion and hurt my back really bad at their property. And then they still make me go there and frickin' visit my son. Like, it just blows my mind. Just keeping me in trauma, right? So there's been a lot. Now with the concussion, I get headaches in my forehead. I get headaches in the back of my head. I get headaches in my temples, and I get headaches actually in my eyes all at one time sometimes. And my ER doctor told me that I'm to go home and rest the rest of the week. And she said, as long as your concussion symptoms can, keep going and everything, We don't know how long it'll actually take for your concussion to heal, but how you'll heal the fastest is limit anything that's going to keep you intensely thinking. So that would be computer, she said, texting, emails, TV, all kinds of stuff. And all of this, what this trauma causes. So it blows my mind that I am not allowed to heal at this time. And when I ask for family counseling from DSS Katrina, that's currently on my case, she said that she talked to her supervisor, Josine Ford, and she said that until Landin comes home, we are not allowed to have family counseling.
Okay, so I'm going to state this and I'm going to speak up because of the fact of everything that's going on. They want to say, you know, that CPS is good, that they're for children or whatever. Whenever I had my son back in 2020, my mother was there for my C-section. My mother stayed with me the whole time at the hospital. His dad gave up the right to see his son be born because we had 2 other children in the system at the time that we were fighting for. My child came home. My child went to my mother's. We signed legal paperwork that we had notarized to show that, you know, we were given temporary custody of my son over to my mom. She was to be his decision maker, you know, make all of his doctor's decisions and whatnot and everything. And then DSS had caught wind that I had had a baby. They came to my mother's house, even though they knew that we lived at another address besides my mother's. And they started asking questions. We showed them the paperwork where we had it legally notarized that we were giving my mother temporary custody of my son, at least for a year, because we figured, you know, we would be in a custody battle with DSS for another year. When they came back out, they had papers to remove my son. And I said, you can't remove my son if I give my mother temporary custody of my son for the time being. They were not removing custody from anyone in the house because my mother had custody of my son and they knew we had done it legally. So they went through a legal loophole to remove my son from custody of the residence. So they wasn't removing custody from me, my fiance, or my mother. They were removing custody from my mother's address. So that way they could place my son in their system.
That's really gross. I found the depriving of the meals audio, and I want to be able to hear more about your story because I'm confused on what exactly you mean by this. But right now, I want to be able to show the audience this because we've been talking about it. Unfortunately, it's been really hard to get on here again, and I was able to finally get it to work. So I just want you to hear about him being deprived of the meals at Connor's.
I thought you had something after we all left.
Well, actually, we did. We did ever eat supper, actually. I thought, why didn't we did not go to supper anyway? Well, why didn't we not go to supper for? Because right when I was done with my visit, it was lunchtime, and I mean, it was dinner time, and we didn't go to dinner. Why is that? Okay, the guy probably did not know. So, do you still got the semi-truck I gave you?
Yep, I put it up.
I mean, how disgusting is that?
Well, I put it to you this way. A parent is shamed if their child does not have 3 meals a day and at least 2 snacks a day. For a child to skip a whole important meal which is dinner, is in a facility that is supposed to be funded through the state, that is required to feed the children at least 3 meals a day and 2 snacks a day, does not feed this child a meal. He skipped lunch till you got there. And then because he skipped lunch and then he had lunch, they made him skip dinner, is what it sounds like to me, which is very horrible. You're muted.
Now, there's another recording where, and by the way, this has not happened just this couple times. They also will sit there and, like one time my son tells me that he had orange soda and pizza at noon. They finally fed him, and they just fed him pizza and soda. Are you serious? Why wouldn't they feed him breakfast? Why would they wait till noon to feed my son? And why would they not feed him a nutritious meal? You want to complain that my son has got these challenges that are hard for you to deal with. And they called me at Connors the first time he was there. They used to call me and ask me how to calm this kid down because they couldn't figure it out. And I was able to do it every time. But they want to try to take my parental rights and say I'm delusional. Really? No, I'm not delusional. I'm a pain in your ass because you literally are not doing what's following the law. You are not protecting and securing my son's safety. He has special needs, and it's your job by law to make sure you watch him 24/7 and you meet all of his disability needs, and you don't, and you won't because you don't care. And that's disgusting. This next recording is Landin telling me that Miss Gabby and Miss Lacey take kids behind inside the bathroom and beat their asses.
Which Miss Lacey is the one that he screamed ouch to for not answering her quick enough.
Exactly.
I know, honey. I know, baby. And you know what? The games wasn't safe for you either because some of the staff was hitting kids there. You told me, Mr. McCain. And Mr. Corey was threatening to kill David in the background, that one recording, okay? So the point is that neither of those places are safe children to be right now. So right now, I need you to ask Jesus to help you to complete your ultimate goal. And you know what that is. Look within your heart. Okay? You know what you ultimately want, where you want to ultimately be. I need you to ask God to help you to complete that goal. And I'm working with you, Landin, and others are working with you. Okay? So you're not alone in this. You're not alone in getting where you want to be. But I just need you to keep doing your part just as well as we do our part. Okay? Landin? Do you understand, Mama? I understand you. Yeah. Okay, my love. So I need you to work on that, okay? And what? So, we had somebody else on the site, and it turns out I got to it, can you call inside the morning when, can you call inside the morning like you usually do, like 10 o'clock, my love? Yeah. Can you call at that time? I can try. Because I think Miss Taylor's slow, and I want you to talk to her. Is that the one who? Do you know if she's the one that was on the staff last night? No, that was Miss Lace. Oh, that was Miss Lace. Appreciate that. Okay. My other question is, you said that the staff are mean to you there. What do they do that are mean to you there? Well, asking Oh, so other kids see that you lie about stuff too? Which person beats the heck out of the kids in the bathroom? Their butt.
I can't remember their names again. I can't remember. I can't remember.
Miss Lacey hits kids in the bathroom?
Sometimes.
And you said Mr. Daddy?
What?
What's the other staff's name?
Miss Gabby.
Miss Gabby. Okay, good. Is any of the kids, not kids, has anybody ever hit you? Sometimes. So that's been happening at the Fitz place.
Yeah.
And who's been hitting you at the Fitz place?
What?
Who's hit you at the Fitz place?
Well, I can't remember the name again, but someone did hit me.
Well, I need to know, so I need you to find out who they were, Landin. It's very important.
Oh, it was, well, actually, yeah, I went and actually forgot, no one hit me, it was just, I was playing with our kids, so nothing happened.
Okay, why are you telling me that they hit you before, but you can't know that you don't remember the person's name, but now you're saying that they didn't, Landin? I need to know the truth. I don't care what those people try to tell you not to tell me the truth. You know what's right and you know what's wrong, and Jesus tells you to tell the truth regardless.
I am telling you, no one does.
Okay, so then I'm trying to understand why. I'm just trying to.
I forgot about probably got the things wrong because the staff said I gotta go to bed.
Okay, well, we love you very much, Landin. Very, very much, okay? And before you go, let's pray real quick, okay? Thank you, Father God. We come in agreement with this prayer, Lord, and we just ask you for the safety of my son while being there, and that all the people and all the kids treat him right, Lord. We thank you, Father God, for the protection, the full protection over my son right now, Lord. We thank you, Father God, for working out all of this and all of his best good. In Jesus' name, it is done. Love you, Landin.
So, Nicole, what do you think about that recording?
I think that there was a worker that was right there that was telling him not to finish telling you exactly which people it was that was hitting him, and even though it was sometimes, but the fact that they're taking children into these bathrooms and putting their hands on these children is just sick. It is beyond sick.
Yeah.
So we're almost at 2 hours on this live, and I know you got more that you need to share. And my phone is not wanting to hold a charge for anything for some odd reason.
No, you're okay. My other question is, do you think what we've just played here for these creeps, okay, that sit there and think it's cute to cover up these crimes, and these other people that better actually bring my kid home and shut this place down. Okay. Do you think it's enough proof of what we showed tonight for these people to get a clue?
I'm not sure, but we're going to get back together and we're going to do another live like this so you can play more recordings. So we can get them all out there and we'll keep sending this. I'm not going to say that the SBI are creeps because the SBI normally investigate when they're made aware of these things like they did in my state.
No, I'm not talking about the FBI. I'm talking about the creeps that think it's cute to cover up these crimes, like Connor's staff and DSS and the lawyers and the gals and the judge and all these other garbage people. That's what I mean.
Well, maybe with these recordings being brought to the light so that way, you know, these other higher ups see what's going on and what's happening. Maybe they can actually take action and start holding these people accountable for what they're doing. And hopefully the center gets closed down because there's no reason these kids deserve to be abused and mistreated, you know, and their hands are literally tied because there's nothing that they can do. They're children, for Christ's sakes. They don't know where to go. They don't know where to turn. None of that. It's up to a parent to speak out, and you've been speaking out, and nothing's been done. You know, and it's time that something is done, and that these children are saved. And I'm going to email this link to the SBI in your area tomorrow for them to watch this. Well, today, shall I say, considering it's like 4:30 in the morning. But, you know, maybe they'll investigate further and maybe they can get a hold of this case and, you know, start looking into what's going on actually. And maybe, just maybe, we can finally get something done to where, you know, Landon is returned rightfully where he belongs. And if you wouldn't mind, for them, and because I know that they'll be able to yeah, it's kind of
Yeah, this is hard. I don't know how to do this. This is usually something the person who puts this live together would see or would be able to put on the screen. I don't know how you do this.
yeah,
This
it was so last minute for me. But
yeah.
there, that is a picture. You have her name. If you really want to investigate, you know, go look up the picture. Her son has a black eye on him while in this facility at this Connor's place. Um, so literally, if you don't mind, literally taking the time to go look up her name. You're on what, Facebook?
Yeah, I'm under Jody Newman right now.
Okay, so Jody Newman on Facebook. Go look up Jody Newman on Facebook, and you'll see that picture of her son with his black eye while in this Connor's facility. Okay, I'm telling you, people.
I just want one more recording that's real short. It's Landin saying he wished on a star to come home.
Mm-hmm.
I just have to find it, so just bear with me. I want to end the broadcast with that.
Okay, but again, like I said, hopefully this will get them investigating to where, you know, something will be done where maybe something will be done for all these children because they all deserve it. None of these kids deserve to be mistreated and abused and neglected at this place. And considering the fact that there's a book out from another kid who was abused in this facility that you can find on Amazon, and there's, you know, a lawsuit about sexual abuse in this facility is abusing these children. And it's still happening, and something needs to be done about it. They need to investigate. They need to look into it, you know, because this is getting ridiculous to the point that these kids' lives are at risk here, y'all. They are. I mean, the fact that they're slamming kids on steps, they could have broke that child's back. It takes 3 pounds of pressure to kill someone. Literally 3 pounds. And do you not think a grown adult can give a child at least 3 pounds of pressure? Yes, the heck they can. Just make sure that, like, before you start playing, that you do unmute. Just wanted to let you know.
We'll just keep talking for a minute so I can find this, Nicole, because I'm doing pretty good, but it's going to be better if I can focus and then we don't have silence, so we're not missing the audience here.
Okay. Well, I mean, there's really no audience at the moment because, like I said, this is a private stream. So only the people who are given this link will have access to watch this video, which will be the people that we deem that need to see this, that need to hear this evidence, that need to be made aware so that way change can happen. But I will say this much. They're not for the best interest of the children, people. They're not. You may think they are, you may think we're crazy, but they're really not. I mean, for Christ's sakes, as I said earlier, they removed my son from the resident's custody, because my mom had custody of my son and they didn't take custody from her. They took custody from the residents, only to place my son right back at my mother's house 3 days later. Literally 3 days later, my mother was approved to keep my son. My son had a crib, a changing table. My son had a bassinet playpen combo. My son had socks. My son had bottles. My son had a swing. My son had two of everything. I had the same thing at my house that my mother had at her house, and he literally had two of every single thing. Me and my fiance bought for our son at our house. My mother bought for my son at her house. And I mean, yes, we would have loved to have my son at our home, but we knew at that moment in time that that was not the best choice. The best choice was for my mom to have temporary custody of our son. And that's exactly what we did. And instead of taking custody from my mother, they took custody from the residents, which should not even be legal. It makes no sense to me how they can take custody from a residence but not a human being.
That's not even logical. I don't understand how they got away with it. I hope you sue them all in federal district court so hard they financially can never come back from that. So I did find it finally, which is very hard and miraculous and all these different things that have happened today, because being learning disabled, being PTSD, you have a really hard time with being organized and being able to put all this together and everything I'm going through. So I really hope that, this is being taken seriously and something's going to be done. So this is Landon's recording, lastly, that he says he wishes on a star to come home.
Tell you something. Hi, Precious. Okay, mommy's here. Hi, Precious. She's here.
Dad, what, Mom? Last night I went and I seen a wishing star, and I wished on it. And I wished to go home.
Yay, baby! Yay! I can't wait to have you in my arms. You have no idea. You made us so happy. I love you so much. Thank you so much. We're here, Landin.
And who wouldn't want to go home after listening to that crazy freaking time that in the background you could hear horrible noises being made and different people screaming and being super loud. I mean, how in that kind of chaos do you think that's healthy for a child mentally to be going through? I mean, it just blows my mind. My son would cover his ears if, if there was too much noise. He has been forced to deal with this ridiculousness and just chaos. It blows my mind. So thank you for joining us. This will be made public here eventually because we're not messing around with what's going on. There will be more recordings to listen to. These alone, in my opinion, should be enough for you to move your asses and do something about this case and get my son home to me now. And imprison these people for thinking it's cute to cover up crimes against humanity. And in my opinion, this is what this is. These are treasonous crimes against humanity. You don't sit there and take children from parents, not follow the Constitution, not follow disability law, sit there and medically assault children, not follow their, vaccine record, not listen to their medical doctors. You don't sit there and play God with people's lives. You are not God. You'll never be God. And you should stop trying to be God because you are definitely failing miserably. And these children, they will sue you too. So good luck to you. So, Nicole, do you want to say something?
Yes, as she said, how is that any way, shape, or form healthy for a child's mental health who, according to the courts, has mental health issues? Can someone please elaborate and explain that one to me? Because in in no way, shape, or form am I a medical doctor, but I have done enough research to know that too much noise can cause overstimulation of a child, and overstimulation is not healthy for a child to have, especially when they have, according again to the courts, mental health issues. Um, so for one, again, as I stand, they allow these children and staff members to scream in the backgrounds, disrupt the few little visits that she does get with her kid here and there for however long it is and whatnot. It's not right. These children being abused and basically not fed, not taken care of properly, slammed on grounds, threatened, if they misbehave, that they're going to beat them, taking them in the bathroom to beat them, threatening kids because they break a pen, the sexual assault that's happened, the child who was there that spoke out about the abuse and stuff like that. That's got to stop, people. It really does. So this is why we're doing this, because we wanted to bring light to this Connors facility and just what all is happening here, so that way an investigation can be done on behalf of all the children, not just Landin, but all of these children.
In a
And
proper
yes,
investigation, not someone who works for the facility. Like the Justice Center just sat there and sent me a letter saying there's not enough evidence to support my claim. Really? I'm sorry, but these recordings is enough evidence. That's my son speaking his voice of the truth that he has experienced himself.
and again, she's gave you her name, which is Jody Newman on Facebook. If you want, clearer audio, she can, send it to you via Messenger or whatever. Or, even set up a live stream like this, so that way she can play it for you so you can hear it for yourself in a clearer version if you're having a hard time here. But hey, a lot of you are tech savvy, with all this high tech equipment that should be able to, make the audio much more clearer, especially you, the SBI. So use your whatever equipment you have, make this clearer so you can hear it, so you can hear what's actually being said, mute out the background noise, so you don't have to hear people screaming like she does on a constant when she's trying to talk to her son, which makes it hard to get these recordings. But she's done, in my opinion, a damn good job. And again, as she said, yes, she's focused on her son, but at the same time, she's focused on these other children because not only does her son suffer, all these children at this facility are suffering. So we're speaking out not just for Landon, but for all of these children at this facility. Yes, we don't have all their names, or we'd have a ticker down here that's not only says justice for Landon, but justice for all of these children at this Connors facility.
Well, Rashim is one of the children. So what happened with Rashim real quick, and I also have a recording, but I have to find it, is Shamika, his mother, sat there and was crying to me many times over that her kid Rashim was kept AWOLing or whatever off of the property, and eventually asked why he keeps walking off the property in the yard. And he said, because the staff hits the kids there and the staff won't stop hitting me there. And so eventually he keeps walking off the property and he finds a gun and he points it at somebody. And then Connors doesn't take responsibility for their actions. Because I contacted the director at one point and I said, listen, I'm like, you are responsible for my child to stay there and be safe and secure. And while he's watching these other children jump off the property, run off the property, you could be making him do the same by his influence of his peers. And I said, it's your responsibility to keep these kids safe. And you know what he said to me? Well, I'm sorry, this ain't a secure building. We can't help it if the kids run off in the yard when they're in the yard. Really? That's your answer? You're a disgusting, despicable human being. You shouldn't even be on this planet of Earth. You don't deserve to be here or breathe. I'm sorry if that sounds horrible and that's harsh. That's not my problem. You want to take children from good parents. You want to take parents or children from natural families. You want to destroy their DNA. You want to destroy their biological, heritage and everything else. Then you better be damn better than their parents that you take them from.
Agreed. But on that note, we're going to end this one. We'll get some more streams together so that way we can send them out because we're at 2 hours and 3 minutes. Well, 2 hours and 4 minutes basically. So this gives them enough time, to watch just some of the stuff that's happened. And again, Jody Newman on Facebook. So if you want to see Landon's picture, and for those of you who want to investigate the case, again, she said his name is Landin Hart Fuller. Is that Heart or Hart?
Oh, you're perfect. It's Heart.
That's what I figured. So Landin Hart Fuller. And again, you can get this information. You can do more research, do what you need to do so we can get justice for Landin and justice for all those other children that are being abused at this facility. So
and
thank you for taking the time. Huh?
And get my son home immediately because you are responsible for my son coming home with all of the trauma he has gone through with this gross system for 2+ years, almost 3. And he is suffering every day that he just wants to come home. And you've heard it with his own mouth. He wants to come home.
But we appreciate the ones of y'all taking the time to listen to this to the end and actually investigating and helping to bring down this corrupt environment. Jody, I'm getting ready to hit the hay because it's 4:46 my time. I'm pretty sure it's the same time there.
Yeah.
We'll catch up later and we'll try to do another live stream like this and get more information put out there to send along with this live stream. But, it could go on for hours if we really chose to, but I'm just really tired and I've got a baby who will be up in a little bit. So I'm going to get some sleep before she wakes up. Yeah. But I appreciate you, actually wanting to do this so that way we can get this sent to the proper channels and actually have something finally done for all these kids that's being abused at this facility.
Thanks. I really appreciate you a lot, Nicole. Can you please email me that link? And also I'm going to give you my ADA advocate, Francesca Amato's email as well, because it might be a good idea for you to CC her in with the FBI webs or email that you have and different people, so she can get her team involved in this too, because she's got different teams that she is also trying to get involved here, and it would be really good for her to be able to reply back as well.
Okay.
And even possibly put in my appeal lawyer Charles email as well, because they actually literally tried to say that if they terminate my parental rights, then his neglect appeal is null and void. That's how they destroy people's parental rights and destroy their cases and everything else, is by terminating parental rights. So then you cannot have your appeals go through. That is criminal.
Okay. Well, I don't know how long this is going to take to fully upload to YouTube. So, I'll send you the link in the morning whenever I wake up. That way you have it. And you'll be the first one that has it before anybody. So you don't have to worry. You don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, no, and I really appreciate this. And also, if there's a possibility we can somehow be able to put this video on my YouTube, as well as your own, that would be great, because I also would like me to be able to have my stuff but be on your YouTube as well. If you have like a YouTube to save the children or something, and the different stories of like, you know, what this is all about and stuff, that might be really good too, to get both your stuff and my stuff on YouTube.
Now, that part, I'm not sure how that works, but I can do the research and figure out, because I think it has to do something with like you download it on your end and then upload it. But again, you'll be the only one with the link. But I'll see if I can figure out how we can put it onto your channel as well as my channel, because I've never done that before, and I've been on YouTube since like 2020, and that's just something I haven't learned. But I'll look into it and see if I can find out. And if not, you'll have the link, and we'll do research to try to figure it out. And if need be, you might just have to like
Just
post the
share
link.
your YouTube link on for other people.
Yeah, you might have to just share the link for the other people to watch, because I don't know how that works. But like I said, I'll do some research tomorrow, and I'll see if I can figure it out, because like I said, that's just one thing I have not done. I'm not gonna lie to you. Normally this is how I do things, but normally it's always like a public stream, and you know, people normally comment, and I normally have viewers in here and stuff. So I mean, I don't have no viewers, I don't have no comments or nothing, because and like as you can see, I put it as private. I went to go put the, the StreamYard link in chat, and then it's like YouTube doesn't support comments on private videos, because this is actually my very first private video. So,
Well, you did great. I'm proud of you. Good girl.
but I'll talk to you tomorrow. I'll get you that link. We'll get together and we'll get our action started. But I'm gonna send it to you first, and then after that, you can send me Francesca and them's email, and we're gonna get this emailed to the SBI tomorrow for your area. And I know how to look up that information, so I'll get that situated. But that'll be after this post, and I get the link sent to you and everything, and get up with you. Okay.
Well, I really appreciate you a lot, and that you'll also be a witness to what you, like I said, you heard today and seen and stuff. So, you know, these people are not getting away with it. I told her, you know, whatchamacallit, the one day I said, you know, there is eyes on, you know, there's more and more eyes being on this case.
Yeah. Most definitely there is.
Nicole, I really, really appreciate you. God bless you. And I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Good night.
Good night.